Hello and welcome back to Homeschool Together. Thank you so much for joining us. We had just left Egypt and we are now into the Americas for the next couple of weeks. This is a good time for us. We're excited. We've spent a lot of time in kind of that Mesopotamia region, and it's nice.
And we're going back in 2 weeks. So
yeah, we're going back.
This is like a short detour.
But it's nice to take a weekend jaunt across the pond and find out what's happening in the Americas, specifically in the Andes region and the Nazca people, specifically the Peru region, kind of that whole stretch of the Andes going all the way through the Atacama Desert and finding out what some special things were happening about 1000 BCE in that time frame. So it was really, really fun. But what the cool thing about this week is you've worked hard. You've gone through Egypt. You've done all the early stuff.
And there was a lot of books for Egypt.
There's a lot of books for Egypt. This is a light week. This is a quick week. You know, earmark this one as your break week. I mean, you've made it a third of the way through the curriculum. There's not a lot here. And you'll notice the video is pretty short today. But that's okay. You know, sometimes, you could spend more time doing more videos, or maybe you just catch up on some reading. Maybe you're catching up on Poppy. You found out
but
the ending there.
But if you took 3.5 weeks with Egypt, like we did, then you really appreciate the fact that you can probably breeze through this one in about a half week and be just fine.
Yeah.
So we only have a couple books to talk about, so let's get right into it.
So the first one is American People's Book. We brought this up before in our Around the World journey when we talked about North American and South American Native peoples, but this is a 2-in-1 book.
So yes, this American People's Book is a little bit of a misnomer because it actually has American Indian, and it has the one we're really going to talk about, which is Aztec, Inca, and Maya. So when you go to look for this to buy it or to get it from your library, you're really looking for Eyewitness, Aztec, Inca, Maya, because we just happen to have it in this combo book.
Yeah.
But just so you know.
And what's important here is we're not actually studying the Incas yet, because we're actually not there yet.
Yeah.
The Mayas will come next week when we do Mesoamerica, but this week we're studying specifically the area of Peru where some of the first big civilizations were found in that time frame, specifically the Nazca people, and believe it the Chauvin people that started building cities and civilizations, and kind of the first imprint of big existence that we found in Peru. So it's really, really cool. So basically this side of the page over here, they were just talking about the pottery and the different type of artwork and the different type of weaving. Because they had different types of fibers that they were using, specifically from the alpacas and the llamas, different animals that they had to domesticate. What was cool also is what we've learned here is, as well, dipping into our the Osborne Encyclopedia World History. This side, this is next week, but this is right here, just talking about all the foods that come from there, the potatoes, the peppers, like all the things, squash, all these things that we take for granted, tomatoes, that we are so, we think are very much a European thing.
Oh, right. Yeah, they're all
came from these people, and only came once the Europeans came across and brought some of that food back, did it become a mainstay of those countries that we associate, like the tomato with Italy, that type of thing. Was actually a South American thing, and it was really, really cool. And the fact that the potato is one of the largest crops in the world, corn is the number one crop in the world. All came from between this area and up into the Mesoamerica area, was really where it first started. And really just kind of keying in, I think the History Quest book this week really focused on the Nazca people. And then the History Hop, and maybe we'll go ahead and bring that book up maybe in the next week or so, and we'll talk a little bit more about it and how they structure it. But talking about how important the pottery work was in this time period, really advanced pottery work, really advanced weaving that was being done at this time frame. It was hard to find a lot of those examples in the books because this whole early Peru history time frame, this early Andean civilization, was not really covered a lot in a lot of the materials. So we had to go out to the web. We had to go out and Google things. We had to go out and find examples of these pottery. So we were lacking in the books this week, we had to go use our other resources. And this was really a week where I had to lean on doing a lot of Google searches and using YouTube a lot, because there just wasn't a lot of like supplemental material.
That's true.
If you look at for the week, it's really just, without the books that we bring to the table, it was just the History Quest book and some outdoor stuff. And that's all this week called for. So we had to really pull on the threads to get some more learning in this weekend. And it was a little bit of a challenge, but also it made for an easier week. But I think this is one you don't want to miss out on, because I think the Nazca people and the Nazca lines can really just brighten the eyes of
Yeah,
it's
our
something
kids
that,
were pretty excited about
yeah,
that.
it's pretty amazing to see these, these lines and huge geoglyphs etched into the desert, and the fact that they've been there for 3,000 years and nobody knew about them, nobody saw them until you got up onto the hills or into an airplane, and they're just sitting there, and it's just amazing to see,
Yeah,
and
really
it's
cool.
amazing for them to try to piece together. I know I make a lot of ancient alien jokes, but it's really interesting to piece together why these people did these things. Why are they building, 500-foot monkeys into the side of the hill? It's just such a wild thing, because if you think about it, the monkeys were not in that area. You had to go over the mountains, down into the Amazon rainforest area of Peru to even find some of the critters that they were talking about. So it's really, really cool. We really liked it, and we'll talk a little bit in the videos section about some really cool videos that we watched, kind of accentuating that learning and everything. So we talked about, I think a couple episodes ago, talked about the One Small Square. This week we had a new One Small Square book, The Woods.
We started with Backyard, and this is Woods.
So the curriculum calls out for this new book. So that book that we talked about a couple weeks ago kind of ended. We read the whole thing, and now you're into The Woods. And this is really cool because we're doing this right now. It's end of September, so we're about to hit the fall time frame, and so the trees are all of a sudden outside are going to start to become a major focal point of what you see, and it's really, really cool that we're doing this right now, right here in the early part of fall.
So knowing that Woods comes in, what are we, week 11?
Week 10 or 11, yeah.
Yeah, so just
you
kind
can
of
key your curriculum that might help you
and if
out
you're
there.
doing this at a different different time of year, if you start in the middle of winter, I think you absolutely could switch up these One Small Square books, right, and move them. I think do the Backyard one, switch with one that would be, maybe you do Tundra in winter. And
the only thing they call out are the pages to read, and I think there's sometimes a little bit of an activity, so maybe not. You may have to hop a little bit if you want to switch the books that you're reading for the time period of the year, but maybe you can even do this in the spring when the leaves are starting to bud out. If you have like kind of a foresty area around you, that might become a cool thing. So as we're hitting the fall, or if you do it in early spring, this book might be a great example of that. So again, very similar to the other One Small Square book, just asking you to find a small area in your backyard or a small area that you can routinely go to, whether it's like a neighborhood park or something of that nature, that you can always return to and just kind of examine the flora and fauna of that space.
And all the things we've been pretty impressed. I have been pretty impressed when I come home from work. The girls are always saying like, "Oh, look what happened in our square," or
we had to lament the death of all of our worms that we found because they got left out. The 4-year-old. We won't go there. Anyway,
those poor worms. Anyways, so I've been really impressed with the way that this is kind of hyper focused on such a small area and something that kids can really observe. And it's given our girls something they've been really excited to go out and check on their square and go see their new square in the woods. And
if you don't have something in your backyard, if you're limited space, but you have a neighborhood park, a great excuse to get out and go, "Hey kids, we got to go check on our square. We got to go figure out what's going." That's right, we do. And I could easily see you in a park. You drag a rock over, you put a bunch of leaves there. Nobody will notice, and you just keep coming back to that same spot. And maybe you keep adding more, stuff and everything, and nobody notices that you turned this little section of the park into your own little experiment. Have fun with it. Really, really run with it. You can be really creative with this. So
absolutely.
That was the end of the books. As we said, it's a very light week this week. Take advantage of it. Maybe this week you go see a movie or something like that. Take a little break. Maybe catch up on your math and reading curriculums.
But we did watch a couple of videos that we really liked. One of the ones that you liked the most was the Geologics channel.
So this man, buttery smooth British accent, and it's very obvious. All his hair has migrated to his chin. He has a beard to match the butteriness of his voice, smooth head, obviously beautiful.
Okay.
I just marvel.
You have a man crush on this.
I do have a man crush because this man has like 5 YouTube channels that all have like 1 million subscribers. Geologics is just a really, really great channel. I love it for his approach to kind of like these video essays. He's a great presenter. The content is not very difficult to understand, 15, 20-minute long videos, wonderful video production with the B-roll that goes along with his essentially audio essay that he's presenting. I love his channels, and he had a whole thing on the Nazca lines that I really enjoyed. I'm just talking about the nature of them, and it was really, really cool.
So we'll link that below.
We'll go ahead and link that below. And also, there's a few other Nazca line videos that we watched as well, and I'll see if I can dig them up for you and add them in there so you guys can kind of bulk up what you're doing. And then on top of that, I said it a little bit earlier, we did some Google searching on the pottery and the weaving work that had been done in that time frame, because it was very specific, especially it pairs with the history quest. And the history hop portion of the end of that chapter. So they do a chapter and then the history hop. The history hop specifically called out how important the pottery and the weaving was. So,
yep. So this is a good opportunity. We have a Google Hub and we ask it to find things for us. And then we, it displays stuff for the kids, and that's been really fun. So this is a short week, and Matt's still nursing his voice. It's all that volleyball coaching that he's been yelling at those girls to run.
I didn't sign up for this.
So anyways, we'll let you all go. But thanks for sticking around with us for this portion of our vlog. Next week, we're going to be in Mesoamerica. We're going to be studying the Olmec and the Maya. So I'm really excited. I don't know, we might watch Apocalypto. We'll see. I don't know.
Not for the kids.
Not for the kids. I heard that was a trip. So, but yeah, we're really excited to get into the Maya. We've got a lot of fun activities planned and some cool things that we're going to do. So stick with us, and we'll see you back here next time.